Hello everybody, this is Austin from Bird Racing Analytics, and today I'm going to walk through our dashboarding features, which will help you get the edge on the competition or help with your commentary or whatever other needs you may have when it comes to desert racing. So what we have here is a snapshot of the data from the Baja 400 in 2023, and we're going to start by looking at the Pro UTV normally aspirated class and racer David Petter. So in this first section here, we have positional related information. So David Petter is at 181.8 miles into the race. He's in fourth position. He is 21.1 miles behind the next vehicle of the same class, and he is 25.9 miles behind the class leader. In this next section, we have a time loss graph, and this compares David Petter's performance in every 10-mile section against the fastest driver of the same class for that 10-mile section, which may not always be the person in first. It's just the fastest person to go from the start of the section to the end of the section. So in this case, it would be 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and so on. And we can see here that he is about 3.65 thousand seconds behind based on that metric, which seems to be consistent with what we're seeing out of his comparison to the leader. So that's just a little more than an hour, and he's 25.9 miles behind the class leader, and it's totally reasonable that his average speed is probably somewhere around 25 to 30 miles an hour for the entire race, which would be consistent with what we normally see out of Pro UTV NA drivers. In this next section, we're going to take a look at some speed-related information. On the far left-hand side, we can see that David Petter is currently reporting 11.4 miles an hour from his tracker, so that is just his current speed. In the middle here, this metric is a little more complicated. What we're looking at is the next section that David Petter has yet to pass through. We know that he's at about race mile 181, so the next section for him to go through would be 190 through 200. This metric represents the average for the entire class through those race miles. So the whole Pro UTV NA class is averaging about 29.1 miles an hour between race miles 190 and 200. This metric on the right is fairly similar, but instead of looking at the entire class, this is the fastest driver through that 10-mile section of 190 through 200. So whoever the fastest in the class was averaged 31.8 through those 10 miles. At the bottom here, we have a graphic that represents those same metrics just historically. So you can see along the bottom axis there, we have race miles 10 through 20, 20 through 30, 30 through 40, and so on, all the way up to where David Petter currently sits at about a race mile 181. So this purple bar on the far left represents the fastest driver through that section. So he averaged 34.5 miles an hour through that section. The middle one is going to represent the class average, which is going to correspond to this middle box up here. And for that first 10-mile section, it is 27.5 miles an hour. And then the green bar is going to represent David Petter's performance, which was 31.8 miles an hour. So in this first 10 to 20 miles, we can see that David Petter performed above average, well above average for that section, but just below where the fastest driver performed. And down here at the bottom, we just have some simple tracker information. This is just reporting that the tracker updated 0 minutes ago, which is good. It means his tracker is working well. We're going to move on to the next tab, which contains racer updates on the entire class. Here we're going to clear David Petter from the filters so we can see the entire class. On the left-hand side, you can see the current mile an hour for each of the racers, which may vary based on where they're at and what the terrain's like. And we get a better idea of what that looks like on the right-hand side given the race miles. So on the right-hand side, we can see that basically we have a neck-and-neck race between Gabe Matthews and Lauren Jansky, both at 207.7 miles into the race. And Gabe Matthews is running real hot, so he's probably trying to secure that lead or run down Lawrence at the time. In this next section, we just have a summary of who's not moving within the class. So at this given time, we can see that Carlos is not moving. He's going 0.1 miles an hour, and his tracker last updated 3 minutes ago. At the bottom here, we have table-related information that corresponds to a lot of the data that you've seen above. So for any of the racers, we can see what their current mile an hour is, what their race mile is, when their tracker updated, what the timestamp was for that update, and we've also incorporated in their latitude, their last known latitude and longitude. Now we're going to move on to our third and final tab, which is the section analysis, which is going to give us more of a historical view of how the race has gone so far rather than update related information. We're still going to focus in on the Pro UTV NA class for now. In this top graphic, we have the average mile an hour for each racer through each 10-mile section. So at the bottom here, we can see again, we have race miles 10 through 20, 20 through 30, 30 through 40, and so on. These colors in the key correlate to the driver represented in the graph down below. So let's look at one of these more competitive sections like 30 through 40. We can see that Lawrence Jansky and Joe Bolton were both running 43.2 miles an hour. Gabe Matthews was right behind them, as well as David Petter and Carlos. This next graphic is basically a ranking of those drivers using from the graph before. So in that same 30 to 40 section, we can see that Lawrence Jansky, his percentile was 100, so it's one, he's first in that section, and then Joe Bolton second, so on. Gabe Matthews third. In this final section, we have table-related information. So if you wanted to drill deeper on any of the information represented in any of the other graphics, this would probably be the place to do it. So we are going to take the racer that we have used before, David Petter, and we'll just type it in to the search bar here. And we can see that it is filtered down to David Petter's information, and we can see each of the rows has been broken up by section. So we can see this top row is 10 to 20, and his average mile an hour was 31.8. The total time he's lost in the race up to this given point is 90 seconds. He lost 90 seconds in that first section, so this is right where we start measuring, so it makes sense that these both are the same metric. And then this is the class average mile an hour, and then this is the fastest person through those section. And then this is the estimated time it took him to go through from race mile 10 to 20. It was 18.9 minutes. We've made it through all the sections, but before we wrap this up, I'd like to demonstrate some of the capabilities of filters. So we haven't really had a chance to look at how filtering works yet. We did use the filters to clear David Petter when we wanted to look at class-based information within the second tab. But let's dive a little deeper into that. So I want to select a different class. Let's pick the trophy truck class, and then let's focus in on let's take 3 racers. So we will look at, let's take the McMillans, Andy McMillan, Dan McMillan, and if I can find Luke in here, yep, Luke McMillan, and we'll filter down to those and hit apply. So in this first graph that we're already familiar with, we can see the speed comparison between the 3 drivers. Pretty interesting to see how competitive they are in all the sections. 40 to 50, they're just right on top of each other, and we can see the same between 240 and 250. And now we can look at their percentiles. This one will be a little bit different. We'll notice that it's not, 1, 2, and 3 like we saw with the UTV-NA class. The reasoning for that is that all of these comparisons are done against the entire class, and we've selected only 3 racers, so we won't see that type of ranking where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you can see their percentiles stacked up against the entire class for each of those sections. And if you want to dive deeper on any of the individual metrics, as before, you can use the table at the bottom. All right, I think that wraps this up, and thank you for listening.